What's up, everybody? It is December 6th, the Friday Insiders TV daily NBA fantasy show. And I have a feeling it's going to be a good one. We have these two studs on here, Laffy D and Mike Leone. Should be a good old time.
PL in the building. Oh, I'm in the zone, man. Yeah.
Now tell me who can stop me. I'm in the zone. Competition's none in a league of my own.
That's right. We got the big NBA slate going on tonight. Should be a fun night. Where everyone's got some gloomy. Do you have gloomy weather there, Mike? You're in Buffalo.
I'm in Buffalo. It's cold.
And Dave, you're up north in Philly.
Terrible. It's one of those days you just want to sleep.
Oh man, and that's why we're glad to have everyone here watching the show with us. Again, this is the daily fantasy NBA show presented by DraftDay, DraftDay.com. They've got a few good tournaments, and I think today is the finals of the Fantasy Insiders bracket tournament. We'll see if we can pull that bracket up later on. But winner gets a free T-shirt and all the money in that contest. So good stuff. Papa Cub was in there, and Papa Cub, I see you in the chat. So link us in the chat the contest, and we'll pull that up and see who's playing in the ship. We got some good games though tonight. We were talking a little bit about it in pre-show, and Dave, you wrote the article for Fantasy Insiders, the FanDuel piece, the 3-tier plays. So we'll talk about that a little later. Mike, was today your day for the Roto Experts Daily Fantasy Rundown?
Actually, Drew wrote it today.
Dang it. Just kidding. Mike and Drew do a great job there at the Roto Experts with the Daily Fantasy Rundown. If you're not a subscriber there, you need to be. So yeah, let's just jump into some games right away and see. I want to just kind of get your take on it. First, the news: Russell Westbrook, a game time decision. Chandler Parsons, a game time decision. Michael Carter-Williams is out tonight, making the Tony Roten show, and I'm going to try to have him as much as I can. Any other news that we need to know about, Dave?
No, I think that's about the most important news we have going on. I do think it's interesting to note, though, that Tony Roten had been losing minutes. This is with Carter-Williams in. And because, can you hear me, Dave?
I can, yes. No, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry, my computer went out. Yeah, he was losing minutes when Hollis Thompson was put at starting shooting guard and James Anderson was put to the bench. And that was something that a lot of people were talking about. So I don't think that it should influence him much tonight since he's going to be starting at point guard. But I will be interested to see if there is anything different now that Thompson is in the starting lineup and it isn't Tony Roten and James Anderson.
Your thoughts on that, Mike, about this point guard situation in Philly? I mean, whenever Michael Carter-Williams was out earlier in the season, Tony Roten first game, triple-double that he started. So are you apprehensive at all about this game or not?
I'm not worried because I think maybe they're doing some different things with their rotation when Carter-Williams is in. But, Roten's going to be starting. He's going to get enough minutes. And the way they play, you want their starting point guard. And it's not like Roten's a chump. So I'll have him everywhere, I think, tonight.
Yeah, me too. And like I said, I'm not advising against him. I had him as a top value play today because Brett Brown has to acknowledge the fact that how good he's played. All I was saying that is it was interesting to see that he was kind of put on the back burner with Carter-Williams in there and with Hollis Thompson starting.
Yeah, and we have, both those guys in that high up-tempo offense that Philly has. Whoever's handling the point guard duties is going to be a good play. I mean, you've seen both those guys, even when Carter Williams was out, again, Roten kind of took over the show. So with them being a top 5 team in pace, Tony Roten is a guy whose price has come down because he hasn't started. So we'll see. We'll see where he is, but I mean, it's going to be tough to ignore him tonight. And as far as that Oklahoma City situation, Russell Westbrook, I guess it's a situation where his stomach is not feeling good. I don't know, but he's questionable. Do you think if he doesn't go, would Jackson be a guy who you would feel confident in rostering, Mike?
Yeah, I was looking a lot at this, especially on FanDuel when I was, kind of configuring a lineup. And I think he's going to be a great value play if Westbrook's out. I think that's obvious. The problem is there's a lot of value plays tonight. So which ones do you pick and choose from? And I don't know if he's necessarily a must play. I take Roden for much cheaper over him. And, I love Kemba Walker tonight, which, makes it difficult to roster Jackson, especially on a site where you can't play a flex.
Kemba Walker is a guy that I've seen kind of a lot of people are high on. You had him in there, Dave, on the 3-tier plays on fantasyinsiders.com, that article you wrote, and he actually is the poster boy today. So
I saw that. It's a pretty picture.
It is a pretty picture. I'll take credit for that one. We'll see, but we'll see about Kemba. Tell us about. He's a guy that I've rostered on Draft Street a few times, but other than that, I've kind of stayed away from him on other sites. Tell us why he's going to be good play tonight.
Yeah, Dave, I haven't played him once all season. So for me to put him in here means there's something about this guy I really do like tonight. Excuse me. In the article, I noted that they're giving Philadelphia is allowing the most fantasy points, the most rebounds, the most assists to point guards on the season. So, I mean, they're allowing 10.3 assists to point guards, over 6 rebounds, and almost 48 fantasy points per game. So it's really hard not to like someone like Walker who can contribute handsomely in all of those categories. He's not just a shooter. He's not just a passer. He can do it all. And he can also register some fantasy points in the steals and even a rare block. So, yeah, I think he's a really great play tonight. And he's a mid-range play on almost any site you'll come across. 7,300 on FanDuel, 78 on DraftKings. He's the kind of guy I think you can exploit that salary tonight and really get something nice out of him.
Definitely. You see, I have him up on DraftDay again. They have a really cool interface as far as the players go, but he's 11.3, which is kind of puts him in that middle tier. But we talked about how Philly is just up and down, up and down. There is, and with Kemba in that lineup, we'll see. It's hard not to take one of those two guys, Kemba and Tony Roten. On most sites, though, you only have 2 spots where you can fit in a point guard. So, are you looking at any other point guards besides this game, Mike?
I'm locking these guys in, really. I mean, you look at Kemba, we already talked about. It's just such a great matchup. Philadelphia is last in the league in defensive efficiency against point guards. They lead the league in pace. You saw Oladipo had a triple-double the other night. Last week when we were on the show, Drew Holiday absolutely went off. The ceiling is just so high in this game. I have a tough time fading Kemba. And another thing in his favor, I don't always look at this stuff, but his home road splits are kind of big. So him being at home tonight makes me feel even more comfortable about it.
Yeah, last year his home and road splits were similar too. So it's not just an anomaly, through a month of the season. He really does perform better at home.
We had Scott Malwig at sports_25 to life, who's a guest here and knows his basketball stuff. He had a question earlier. Dave, I'll let you take his question and kind of what you think it has to do in that Philly-Charlotte game.
The Al Jefferson
Yeah.
one? Yeah, I really hate Scott right now, man, because I do. I saw that, and I'm like, I don't even want to answer this because now he's making me think deeper about it when I really just wanted to plug him in. He's got a point, but I think just with the way, I mean, he's played 38 minutes in consecutive games, and like he said, is he going to have to chase Hawes and Thaddeus Young around? It's possible, but I think regardless, that pace of the game and the way that they play and the amount of points that they give up and how ineffective they are against every single position, it's hard not to like him anyway. But when he raises a point like that, it does make you look at someone different when they're 8,000 on FanDuel and someone like Gortat is only 7,200. So yeah, it's something to consider. And I think if you're going to go that route tonight, you might be better off going with the Kemba Walker or the Gerald Henderson instead of him because they're both less expensive and probably more liable to exploit the pace of the game.
Mike?
What? I'm sorry. What was Scott's question?
That's my fault. I should have read. The question is this. He says, need to know if I'm on an island worried about Al Jefferson chasing around Halls or Thad. And then he tagged some bright basketball minds in that post.
I'm not really too concerned about it. Dave made a pretty good point there. Just Philadelphia is just so bad, gives up so many points that even if that does occur, you would have to think he'd still fall into a pretty high floor just because of the way Philadelphia plays. He might not be someone I'm calling a must play like Kemba, but I will have him on a couple of sites tonight. I'm not really scared off by it.
Your partner in crime, Drew, responded and said that it is a concern, but he's more using it as a tiebreaker and not as a deterrent.
Right. I think that's a good way to view it.
So if there's someone in that same range that he likes just as much as Al, he'll choose that person over Al. But I mean, Jefferson has just been crushing it. I mean, there's his past week he's been money. Starting really at that game last Friday, Mike, when you were on the show here, and then later that night you took down the Draft Street basketball championship qualifier. Do you think this show had anything to do with that?
Oh yeah, we were on point last week. I felt pretty. We had Drew Holiday. We talked about Al Jefferson a little bit. We had a bunch of good. DeMarcus Cousins. Actually, Cousins I didn't end up rostering. He was on the team chasing me, but he was a guy we were all over last week. So I'm hoping it's good luck and that there's another qualifier tonight. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we can't hold to that standard, but I am entered in that tournament tonight, so maybe I will get a seat, and we can just start flip flopping, or maybe Dave, you can get a seat.
Let's hope.
Let's talk about the shooting guard spot. Shooting guard, especially on sites where you're kind of locked into that position, is difficult. And then even on FanDuel, they took away Evan Turner from the shooting guard, moved him to small forward. So one less option there. Who are you liking at shooting guard tonight, Dave?
Gerald Henderson, someone I mentioned earlier. He's been relatively inconsistent this year. And the production just isn't there at times. But he does have the ability to produce. He can score, and he can contribute in other areas. So he's a guy that I really like against Philadelphia, who also is, completely ineffective against shooting guards. Another one is James Harden. His price has come down on a number of sites after that deplorable game. I think 3 for 17 shooting. He missed all 10 shots from three-point range. It was just really bad. And he's another guy that I think should bounce back in a fast-paced game with a over-under, I think, is 217. And another one is Klay Thompson. He's typically a guy that I avoid. But recently, if you look, he's putting up rebounds and assists, which he's not too, that's not common with him. That's really not commonplace with Klay Thompson. He had 10 rebounds the other night, 8 assists the night before, 7 assists the other day. So, yeah, he's a guy in another fast-paced game that I think should be a good play. And other than Harden, they're solid mid-range play, but they have tons of upside. And I think Harden for a less price tag, he's discounted on a number of sites. He's another great play. So.
Oh man, I took Harden in the Fish Cake King Challenge on Wednesday, and also a few other places, maybe even FanDuel. But No, it was DraftDay. It was our sponsor, DraftDay. That's where it was. He burned me, and luckily I didn't have too much of the Spurs T Wolves, but I did have Harden, which he might as well. He and Paul George, guys that didn't really do a whole lot last game. Mike, your thoughts on James Harden tonight? Worth the risk? Yay or nay?
I'm going to go yay. I'm in agreement. I like Harden, a huge over-under, as Dave said. And frankly, there's just a lot of value plays elsewhere tonight. That shooting guard, where you need two of them, like on FanDuel, maybe not on other sites, I would spend on him in my flex position. But where you really need a shooting guard, I'm okay paying up for him. You got to spend somewhere tonight, and I think that's a good spot to do it. Another shooting guard I like is Eric Bledsoe. I think he has a good game. His price is down. He had a couple games where he didn't see his normal minutes coming off the bench because he was working his way back from injury. And then his first start back, he was going up against Memphis and Tony Allen, so he had a dud of a game. So his price is too low based on circumstances that aren't going to continue. And even though it's a slower paced team in Toronto, they don't guard shooting guards very well. They're 24th in defensive efficiency against shooting guards. So I like him a lot. He's, I think, 7,200 on FanDuel, and I think he's just a little bit underpriced across the board.
Yeah, he is. He's definitely a guy. I know you guys were real high on him on Wednesday, and he paid off pretty much on most sites. Going back, it seems like we're talking a lot about this Bobcat Sixers game, which typically means there's going to be some value there. Hopefully, we won't get burned too bad, but. Jeffrey Taylor.
He was your guy last week.
I know, and he burned me, and I'm putting myself through the fire again, and just want to know is he worth going back where he's minimum salary? Yes or no?
No.
I think he is.
I not so much because I dislike him, but just because. You got to spend somewhere tonight. I just like so many other value plays that I feel more comfortable in across the board. So it's more of an opportunity cost type of thing versus not liking Taylor specifically.
I like him just because he knows that he has to come out and do something. He knows that he has to get out of the slump. There's an article Rick Bonnell, the Charlotte beat writer, posted yesterday. So I think we'll see more out of him. Fear the Turtle 7 says Jeff Taylor, all caps. He's great if you like 0.25 fantasy points per minute. Typically, we don't like that. But, where there's smoke, there's fire. So that's why I think that, with his minimum salary, he is going to be someone that you want to at least consider, especially like on draft day at minimum salary where he's shooting guard eligible. So, yeah, we'll see. If you have any questions for us, feel free to ask it in the chat. Again, this is the Insiders TV Daily NBA Show, sponsored by DraftDay. We're just now heating up, making a run toward the end. A lot of good games tonight. So hopefully you're listening to us, not just burning up your piles of cash that you have there. Let's talk about, though, some more of these games that you're interested in. Besides the Charlotte-Philly game, who are you looking at as far as good games to target players in, Dave?
Yeah, there's no other place to look than Houston, Golden State. There's going to be so much production in that game. And if Parsons is out, that only opens a window for other players to, provide value. And I'm hoping that he is out tonight. He's been playing well, but that gives someone like Francisco Garcia an opportunity to play, and he's cheap across the board. So I'm really looking for those type of value plays tonight because Parsons is all right, but he's priced too high. I don't want to pay for a guy like that. I'd rather take his replacement for 5% less and see what he can do, and probably give me 35 fantasy points on a good night. And tonight's one of those nights. So when you have a points total that high, it's really hard not to like anyone. Beverly, Harden, Dwight Howard I'm not huge on tonight because he's been slumping. He's been slumping really bad. But more the guard position and small forward. Harrison Barnes has gone up in price, so I'm not big on him. But yeah, all the guards in that game, I'm a really big fan of tonight, and I'll probably roster as many of them as I can for the right price.
Yeah, Caspi too in that game if Parsons is out.
Caspi actually met President Obama last night. He tweeted out the video on Instagram, which was kind of cool. You know, he's an Israeli, and he said that I don't know. It was just kind of cool if you can find Omri Caspi's video because he's like talking to the president. And have you seen those videos where the president he shakes the white guy's hand, and then like when he comes to Kevin Durant, he'll basically give him bring him in close. It's great. Maybe we can find that later, but he's a big basketball fan. I'm not sure that's going to motivate Caspi, but if you're looking at that angle for he wants to play good for the president, a little bit of
Might be a stretch.
Yes. Definitely a stretch there. I would agree with you about that game. Another game I'm looking at is that Milwaukee at Washington game. A lot of good value there, especially on the Washington side where their rotations are pretty thin. Mike, I'll let you handle this because it's something that you've harped on big time this season.
Yeah, I think I'd encourage everyone to go to Roto World NBA depth charts and just take a look at the Milwaukee front court. You've got Ilyasova, Henson, and Raduljica. I don't know if I said that correctly, but those are the only three healthy bigs there in that game. And the biggest concern with the Milwaukee guys is usually minutes. You never know with Larry Drew. He still might screw us DFS players tonight, but it looks like pretty much a lock that Ersan and Henson are going to get big playing time, and they generally produce. I think Drew pointed it out in the rundown today that Henson has some pretty great per 36 numbers, 16 points, 11.7 rebounds, and 2.3 blocks per 36 minutes. I think those two guys are awesome value plays across the board just because it's such a thin rotation up front. And on the flip side, the the Washington front court can also have value. Milwaukee's not that great of a rebounding team, and theirs is more of a quality type of thing. So Gortat and Nene are guys you want to look at. So I think this can be a pretty good DFS game for users.
Yeah, last time I checked, a couple days back, Milwaukee was 29th or 30th in team rebounding, in rebounds allowed, in rebounds allowed to centers. So Mike, you're dead on there, man. Because especially with with no front court depth, it's hard not to like Henson tonight. I also ran his 30 per 36 numbers a couple of days ago, and he's averaging well over a fantasy point per minute as long as he's in there. And I think especially if he gets consistent playing time, you get him in a groove, he'll be able to produce better too. You can't be giving this guy, some minutes here, some minutes there, 15 minutes in this game, 30 minutes in the next game. Let this guy develop his game with 30 minutes every night. It's not fair to be throwing him out there for 10 minutes one night and then reeling him back in. It makes no sense. And I think Larry Drew. Yeah, I think Larry Drew's finally starting to see something there. And even if he isn't, he doesn't have a choice. So, yeah, that's a great play tonight. And the Washington center, too. Marcin Gortat. Love him.
Yeah, and what Dave says with Henson's, fantasy points per minute having greater than 1 a minute, that makes him a really high floor player, which you want in cash games, because even if he doesn't see the minutes that we're expecting him to, he can still produce and give you value just because he's so productive on a per minute basis.
Sure.
I want to point out I already brought up Martell Webster on the screen just now. I think he's a good play, especially on DraftDay. Also in this game, Ersan, like you talked about. Last game, they basically took the minutes restriction off of him, and with all the injuries, he's going to get as much as he can handle. Here is another guy. Giannis Antetokounmpo. That is not how you say his name. Here's how you spell it though. You see Giannis Antetokounmpo, something
It doesn't fit in the screen.
something like that. We'll see. He is there. You go. That's his name. He got 28 minutes, 15 before that, 28 before that. Dink said just call him the Greek Freak. And this is also why this is pretty cool. The Twitter feed that Grant Gurton's company, Fanium, provides for Draft Day is on the player profiles. And if you notice, the beat writer for the Bucks says that he's celebrating his 19th birthday today and had cupcakes for the Bucks. He's grown from 6'9" to 6'10" and a fourth since arrival. So today is his birthday, 19 years old. He's been playing, it's kind of like in that Mozgov range where people might be up on him and you don't know what you're going to get. Definitely a GPP play though, especially where he's minimum salary. His birthday, the fact that his name is really long. I mean, where else?
You really love these intangibles, don't you, man?
But did he party last night, or is he gonna party tonight?
He's gonna party. He's gonna party tonight. He didn't party on a Thursday night.
Thursday's the night, at least in Buffalo. I mean, everyone goes out Thursday night, not Friday.
Well, that's Buffalo.
So what do they do on Friday night? Is that
everyone calls in sick and just stays home hungover?
Oh, God bless America. Nap says flavor cupcakes, Dave. Important info. Yeah. But yeah, as far as the two games for me, I think that Golden State Houston game is game number 3. The two games for me is going to be this game and then of course the Philly Charlotte game. Let's talk about other games, other plays though that might be out there. Sacramento LA is definitely one that is interesting. You've got Kaman, who his back is still kind of hurting him. Jordan Hill. Have you read anything about his status for tonight? Is he good to go after kind of injuring himself last Sunday? They've been off since Sunday.
Yeah, they had a very weird schedule quirk. I put that in. I don't want to say it's a quirk, but it was really strange. They didn't play for 6 days. Last thing I saw, I didn't see anything today, but last thing I saw is that he is all right to go. But he hasn't been performing that well anyway. He's not a guy I really like tonight. Mike brought up a great point about there being a lot of value, especially around like the mid-range area too. You got a John Henson, that's also at the same position. So if I had the opportunity to take Henson over Hill, there's no question where I'm going tonight.
What about on that Sacramento team? You have Derek Williams and Jason Thompson, near minimum salary. Derek Williams finally playing the small forward position. Are you even messing with him tonight, Mike?
No, I mean, it's just a matter of too many value plays. I don't see why you're going to take a risk on a guy like that. Not that he can't produce, not that he won't return on value, but in cash games, the one guy I'm looking at in this game really isn't a value play, but it's DeMarcus Cousins, just because I've got leftover money saving on a lot of spots, and he's someone I'm looking at, on Draft Street where I might spend a little bit of extra money. But no, I won't have any Derek Williams exposure tonight.
Same for you, Dave?
Yeah, when you can't produce in 30 minutes, it's not for me. If it depends. If this was a 4-game slate, then yeah, I would definitely consider playing it. Mm-hmm. But it's not. It's one of those nights where there's a ton of value out there, and Derek Williams is the kind. Nah, I'm okay with that one. You can have him, Dave.
I feel like I have a very concentrated player pool that I'm picking from tonight, which could end up very good or not so good.
So I actually like Jordan Hill tonight. He did get hurt. He is, though, one of the guys that I think I might be targeting. We do have some questions. Let's get to them. If you have any more questions, hit us up on Twitter, hit us up in the chat, and we'll get to them. And if you're just now tuning in, you can always catch the beginning of the show and other videos. Like we had a DraftKings video today by Ryan Hodge. But go to go to youtube.com/fantasy insiders and click the subscribe button. Curry and Aminu or Trey Burke and Turner. Trey Burke has absolutely been balling. They've gone from like one of the last most efficient offensive teams to, in the past week since he started, one of the top 5 most offensive efficient teams. Hard to say. But thoughts on that matchup, Curry and Aminu or Burke and Turner? It's definitely an interesting one. Which way would you go, Mike?
I think I'm leaning Curry and Aminu just because Aminu has been pretty solid the last couple of games. He seems to be working his way into consistent minutes. And if there's one player of that group that's going to absolutely go off, it's Curry in that very high total game.
Dave?
Yeah, I'm definitely going Curry and Aminu. There's not really any question for me on that one, actually. Curry performs surprisingly a lot better on the road. And he attempts and nails more three-pointers, and he has a better shooting percentage. He's just been a lot better on the road. And Aminu, I had put this in the FanDuel column today. Unbeknownst to many people, this guy was not producing too poorly, but with Anthony Davis in the lineup. He just wasn't getting the minutes. He was producing 9/10 of a fantasy point per minute. So, when you prorate that, you're looking at a really nice stat line for this guy. And last year, in 28 minutes, he was posting around 23 fantasy points per game. So when you see him for 4,300 on FanDuel, that's all you need to hit value anyway. So anything else you're going to get is just extra. It's hard to avoid him tonight, even against the Thunder, because of how cheap he is and what he's been doing recently and the type of minutes he's been getting.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I think even for a GPP or a cash game, you would want to go Curry and Aminu. Trey Burke, though, he's fun to watch, and we'll see. Another question, TF Belongia, who somebody was commenting on this guy on Twitter. Was it you, Dave?
I don't believe so.
Someone said that he was a thorn in their sides. This guy's is so it's
someone did tweet me about this guy taking all their head-to-heads, I think. Was that it? I don't know. I know someone tweeted me like, "Do you know who this guy is?" I said, "Yeah, I've heard of him." And I said, he keeps sniping every head-to-head I put down, so I don't know. That's about as far as that one goes, but I don't remember. That was a long time ago. That's in 5 days.
This was this week. They said, no, I know who it was. It was Jordan Case, one of our college basketball writer.
Yeah, that's what it was.
So, TF, take it easy on Jordan. Apparently, you've been crushing it. But his question is, do you like Cantor for 4,900 on FanDuel? Played 40 minutes last game with Marvin Williams out, and Marvin Williams out again tonight. Mike, you do like Cantor, even though he was on Shaqtin' a Fool.
Yeah, I really like Cantor a lot tonight. Like you said, Marvin Williams is out, so he's going to start. He should see high minutes. Robin Lopez is a guy I like to pick on. He's got a poor career rebounding rate. He's got a poor career defensive rating. And so I think Cantor is a pretty safe play at that price. So he's one of the value plays that, at least on FanDuel, I'm locking him in on. And some other sites, he's a little bit more. And with the other centers, there's a lot of centers to choose from tonight. We talked about Cousins being a top play. We talked about Gortat being a value play. But on FanDuel, I really like Cantor.
Yeah, I'm not huge on him tonight. He's good for the value at a cheap price. I think he's below 5,000 on FanDuel. But if you have to pay anything extra for him, I'm not going to do it. He's been really inconsistent this year. And I know he saw 40 minutes the other night, but still, that doesn't guarantee that he's going to see 40 minutes again tonight. Especially, was he playing Portland, right? That game could be over by halftime. In Portland, that could be ugly. I know Trey Burke's been looking good. I know they've been playing better with him at the point, but still, for 4,900, yes. Anything more than that, I'm not willing to take the risk on a guy that's been struggling like he has. Him and Valanciunas have been colossal disappointments this year after really expecting breakout seasons. So I'll wait till he can, exhibit some consistency before I lock him in, at least in any big money games.
Here is why Dave is not wanting to play Cantor right here.
Oh, you got it? Oh, enjoy, fellas. This is a treat.
Number one, Enes Kanter, probably the worst jump shot in NBA history. Oh, but guess what? He did it last night. But guess what? He does it again a few days later. Hold on. Hold on. He does it again.
Michael Adams right there.
Good shot.
Bench is going crazy. Number two.
Oh man, so that's where that is one of my favorite segments of any sort of show is Shaqtin' a Fool. But I saw that shot and I either posted it to you, Mike, or Nap.
Yeah, you told me right away.
I was like, man, Enes Kanter just had the worst shot ever. It's going to be on Shaqtin' a Fool. It's man, they get on him so bad. They've got to get on somebody now that JaVale McGee is out. He's like the poster boy for Shaqtin' a Fool. But yeah, I don't think he's a bad play. And he had 20 and 10 last game. I don't think it's going to be that. I told Tuttle, Mr. Tuttle is in Vegas for his FanDuel football championship where he has a chance to win $1 million. He was asking who to place some bets on, and I saw that line of 12 points. Around 12 points, the Jazz were underdogs, and I told him to take the Jazz as road dogs in Portland because the Trey Burke factor. I think that with Burke and with Cantor and Gordon Hayward, I mean, Hayward didn't even have that great of a game last game, and they still kept it relatively close. So, and that was with the Pacers, even though it was at home. I don't mind it, and I don't mind either of those two players, especially for GPPs. Let's see. We'll get to some other questions. Anyone you take from the bargain bin other than Roten? I don't like him taking up the point guard spot on draft day. Thoughts? First thought is, Fish Nerd, you're wrong if you don't take him on draft day. You've got to. You don't have a choice on.
Who else do you want at the point guard spot? Who else is he looking for at the point? Go ahead, Mike.
The price mitigates all the risk there. I mean,
exactly.
If he has a bad game, he still hits value or isn't far off from it. So I don't see any reason in fading him. There's not enough other point guard love that I have to fade him. I guess if Westbrook's out and you really like Reggie Jackson, I'm not sure the pricing disparity between those two, you could possibly go there, but I wouldn't advise it.
Yeah, let me help him out a little bit. In his 4 starts this year, he averaged 19 points, 4 rebounds, 5.5 assists, 2 steals, and 34 FanDuel points. So, yeah, I'm kind of on Roten a lot tonight, especially since he was attempting 18 field goal attempts per game. Look, if he was a starting point guard, there was going to be people, like if he was in every night, there's going to be people paying $6,000 for him on FanDuel where he's 4,300.
Yeah.
So to get him at 43, I understand that Charlotte, their fantasy points allowed to point guards is actually pretty solid, but I think that's more of an illusion than anything else, and I think that he'll be okay tonight. When you're hoisting up almost 20 shots a game, how do you not play a guy for 4,300? It just doesn't make any sense. You have to.
Yeah, and that's why my suggestion would be, first of all, here is an interesting theory that we've kind of batted around. We've talked about, some of the players have talked about, especially as it relates to Condia. Fading kind of the obvious plays, the plays that people might be high on, and just going against it, hoping that since everybody's on it, it will not work out. That is one way, especially if you want to win a GPP play. For me, that would not be the smart thing to do since you know he's going to play, especially since you're talking about draft day. Go ahead. You can still use some of those cheap power forwards and centers. Load up on Steph Curry, though, at the shooting guard spot if you want to do anything. Load up on DeMarcus Cousins, or, go high on 2 shooting guard spots and go Kyrie and Steph. And that way you can get in 4 true point guards. like we've talked about in the past. I don't think it's worth the risk, even if you want to get Drew Holiday in there. I think it's not worth the risk for cash games. That being said, I just don't think how I don't think you can fade Roten tonight. Jackson is another guy. If Westbrook is not in there, it's gonna be tough to fade him as well, as long as his price tag is fairly down. Because Westbrook had a really good matchup, and I know that you're talking about two different players, but he's going to get all the minutes that he can handle. I want to take a look at this. Let's see if we can get a better look right here. I want to take a look at the Day Before Tomorrow article that Scott writes for DraftDay. If you go to DraftDay and click the strategy, you can see some of the players that he's really high on. John Wall, which is interesting. We talked about that game, but we didn't really talk about John Wall. And he has Kemba Walker in there and Kyle Lowry. We haven't talked about Lowry at all. What are your thoughts on Lowry tonight, Mike?
Yeah, he's not someone I'm really on, just because I'm logging in Roden at point guard, and then my next step is Kemba, and I'm pretty comfortable with those two. Plus, he's been playing really well lately, which you would think is a good thing, but it actually, it has jacked up his price. With Rudy Gay having some off games, I think, he could take a lot of the offensive focus in that game. So I'm not really on Lowry tonight outside of maybe a tournament play.
He also has both of your boys. He's got Bledsoe as a play at the shooting guard spot, and then he also has Klay Thompson, Dave, who you talked about earlier. And then at the small forward spot, he talks about Carmelo at a price tag of 15.7. And Dave, you also talked about Carmelo. Tell me why we need to take Carmelo, because I'll be honest, I'm wanting to fade him.
Okay, yeah, I mean, go ahead, you can fade him. But there's a few reasons where I really do like him tonight. First of all, he's averaging 9.9 rebounds per game this year. Let's just say he's averaging 10. I was hoping when I looked that up and putting it in the column, it would be 10 even, so I could say that he's averaging a double-double. But unfortunately, he isn't. Anyways, he's averaging 9.9 rebounds, which is it's almost 3 more than his career averages in rebounds. So that it really boosts his value when you're looking at a guy that can provide in different areas of the game like him, and also put up 30, 40 points on any given night. Last night he dished out assists. He had 19 points. I'd say he didn't shoot much. He was effective when he did, but he didn't shoot much, and he still put up 40 fantasy points. He's $10,000 on FanDuel. He's $10,000 on DraftKings. That price right there, in my opinion, is extremely exploitable. Another thing is the fact that Orlando is just deplorable against power forwards, and this guy should be able to eat him out tonight. They give out a ton of rebounds, a ton of points, a high shooting percentage to him, and the fact that they play at home, I think, is actually conducive to his fantasy value tonight, being that he's going to have to play. He's on a back-to-back, but he only played 31 minutes last night. And I still think he's a good play for $10,000. Now, if he jumped up into the Kevin Durant range, then obviously we're singing a different song. But he's not. He's $10,000, and that's only a little bit above James Harden, who's been, in my opinion, pretty inconsistent at times this year.
Mike, agree or disagree on Melo?
You know, when I did my initial lineups, I had him in there, just seeing a lot of the same things Dave is. He's played 40 minutes pretty much every night. He likely will again tonight, getting some rest last night. If you go through that FanDuel game log, I mean, he's not going to hurt you is an important thing. But just due to the way I seem to be constructing my rosters and tweaking them with these value plays, he's not someone I'm going to own a lot, but I really can't disagree too much with, what Dave's saying.
Unfortunately, it's the same way with me. It's really difficult for me to fit him in. And it sucks because he's only $10,000, and I think that's really cheap for him. I really do. I think that with the way he's been playing, he could easily be at $11,000, but he isn't. So if you can manage to get him in your lineup and still squeeze a lot of other solid players in and some good value, yeah, like Mike said, he's the kind of guy that won't hurt you, especially with the way he's hitting the glass lately.
Yeah, I'm just kind of on the fence. And usually when I'm on the fence about someone, I'll play them maybe in a GPP, but they're not going in the cash game. I feel like I have too many good plays that I feel good about and that are not going to burn me. Let's get on to the rapid fire for Drew. Rapid fire. We have.
We needed that song on Wednesday.
Carmelo versus DeMarcus. I'm going DeMarcus. Mike, you're going.
Oh my God, this is a tough one. I think
That's
I'm gonna
weird.
go Carmelo because he just gets 40 fantasy points, night in and night out. I'm gonna go Carmelo in this format. Although ironically, I will have Cousins on a cash game roster tonight and not Carmelo.
You're going Carmelo also, Dave. You already talked about why you love him.
I'm going Cousins.
You're going Cousins.
No, I'm going Mello. But yeah, I think it's really close. That's a close one to call.
Westbrook.
We outvoted you, Dave.
Well,
What?
such is life.
Yeah, you didn't even take me into consideration. How about that?
I
know.
already knew where you were going with that.
It's fine, Dave. It's fine.
So why is Cousins selected? Come on.
My opinion
This
is useless. I understand.
This is my own. This is not a collective. This is where I'm going, but I'm asking your
Not a
guys'
team player.
input also. Westbrook versus Bledsoe. This could be a freebie if Westbrook is out. With that situation, I don't see how you could take him, especially on a pick 3 out of 5. So we talked about Bledsoe. We'll go there. The next one, Dwight Howard versus Al Jefferson. Dave, your thoughts?
Dwight Howard's been awful lately. I just think that you can't choose him right now with the way he's been playing. And it's really surprising that he can't put up points on that team right now after starting the season off so good. So, yeah, I'm going to go Al Jefferson tonight with a great matchup. And he's playing great, too.
Mike?
I'll go with Dwight. My theory on Dwight is, at least in cap games, is at a certain price point, if he's above it, you don't play him regardless of matchup. If he's below it, he's definitely a consideration. And I think he's below that price point on a lot of sites tonight where he's worth considering.
I'm going Jefferson. His matchup is just better than what Dwight's is. I mean, if you haven't seen Andrew Bogut, he is for real. This guy doesn't back up to anybody, including Mo Williams. So that's why I will go with Al Jefferson. Serge Ibaka versus Jeff Teague. Scott talked about Serge having a really good matchup tonight at the power forward spot. Jeff Teague kind of, the bed last game. I'm going with Serge. Does anybody disagree with me?
No, I'm going to go Serge, too. He's more reliable with the rebounds and the blocks, in a pick 5. More consistent.
This is a tricky one by Scott. I feel like Serge is kind of the obvious choice, especially if you compare their salaries. He's priced way higher than Teague everywhere. I like Teague as a value play, but I can't pick him over Serge.
Trey Burke versus Ersan. This is an interesting one. A tough one. You have two different thoughts.
I'm on the Ersan train big time tonight, so give me Ersan.
That's really hard because Ersan is so liable to disappear on any night. He'll either blow. He's one of the biggest boom bust type players in the league. I'll go with him though. I'm gonna go with Ersan. They, like Mike brought it up earlier, they have no depth. They have to play him. He has no choice but to play.
Well, there you go.
Who are you taking, Dave?
I'm going Burke.
Yeah.
Can't bail out of that one.
I'm going Burke. That was the DraftDay Rapid Fire. Again, if you haven't played over there on DraftDay, they have really fun games. Papa Cub playing Trovier in the championship tonight for the free T-shirt. Papa's already won a T-shirt. So if he wins another one, I think he needs to donate it to somebody less fortunate in the DFS industry that hasn't won a shirt. Thoughts on Big Baby tonight? I got that message today from somebody in a cash game. Where would you go? Big Baby, are you avoiding him tonight?
I'm avoiding him.
Here's a reason to avoid him. They played double overtime the other night against Philadelphia. Against, Thaddeus Young, who's not, that big of a power forward. And he registered 3 rebounds in like 50 minutes of play. And I know he had the point totals. I think he had 33 or 30 points, which was nice. But that's an overtime game against Philadelphia. If you can't bring boards down and add to the add in peripherals against a team like that, it's hard to trust you against New York. And I know that their front court has been really shaky without Tyson Chandler, but still, he's not a guy that I'm interested in at all. He wasn't on my radar even slightly tonight. Maybe I'll be wrong, but yeah, I'm going to avoid him at all costs.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not high on Big Baby, and I was high on Wednesday against him. Wasn't.
What's the news on Vooch though?
High. Vooch, I'm not sure if I've seen any news on him.
Me neither.
I can check and to see if there has been anything lately. Really, the news to keep an eye on is that Vooch news, also Westbrook news, and the Parsons news. He did say that he was going. He had been going to an acupuncturist, and he went through shoot-arounds, and it felt like it was doing better. So I feel like Parsons is going to play tonight. But then again, I felt like at first he was going to play on Wednesday, and he went through shoot-around there. So always something, and we'll see. Burnt Popsicle says, last he saw, Vooch and Jameer were progressing well. And he also wants to know if he's okay.
That means nothing.
If he's okay with Oladipo tonight.
Oh, I should point out, if you play on Star Street and Jameer Nelson plays, I think he's the minimum price there.
Yeah, I saw that too. That's definitely worth considering.
And I think that he was pretty close in playing. From what I read, he was pretty close in playing on Wednesday. So I would assume that he does play tonight. SF Sports says, problems starting both Henson and Ilyasova tonight. I never have a problem with starting 2 bigs in the same team, especially if they have a good matchup, high-scoring game, and they're going to get minutes. And I think the recipe is there for all 3 of those factors there in that game. So, yeah, that's how I feel. Dave, you disagree there?
I'm not huge on Ersan tonight, and I know I probably should be, but he's burnt me so many times in the past. And Henson's a good producer. The fantasy points per minute production is very solid, but that entire team, there's just something about them that scares me every time I lock them in. Right when they seem to be gaining some consistency and some momentum and and consistency within the rotation, they get thrown a curveball, and then it turns into, to garbage. So it's it worries me a lot, but it's not a bad idea. It's just a risky idea.
Yeah. For me, I've had a lot of success with GPPs playing 2 big men because, especially if there's not going to be a lot of competition for that space, that they're going to get a large majority of the rebounds that come their way. So that's why I'm going. That's why I don't have a problem there at all. Millsap or Big Al? Millsap coming off a monster game, but you also have to look at who he is playing against, the Clippers with a high-paced game. Thoughts on Millsap versus Big Al, Mike?
I like Big Al in that one.
Yeah, me too. Millsap's been very inconsistent.
Yeah, he's been up and down, but he might be one of those GPP plays. He looked phenomenal the other night, and he was a guy that I know the Daily Fantasy Rundown mentioned in their spreadsheets, and on Draft Street, he crushed it. Napster Man says Larry will find a way to get Mayo minutes at power forward or something. Shem3 says loving the Turner Gay small forward combo tonight. They're priced to play. Turner small forward eligible. So if you're playing on FanDuel, make sure you're looking there. Want to give a quick shout out to some of the people that make this show happen. Dave, you write the Friday article, and it is one of my favorite articles to read every week.
Thank you, sir.
On fantasyinsiders.com. You can reach him at Laufey_D. And then Mike he writes for the Daily Fantasy Rundown on Roto Experts. It's not for the casual gamer, what they have. It's not. It's for people who really want to ramp up their basketball knowledge and their play. And you want to get an edge. So that's why it's not priced in the casual gamers spot. It's somewhat expensive for daily fantasy. But from I haven't seen one complaint, and it's what I would recommend, probably number one as far as premium subscriptions out there, because they hand feed you and they tell you who to play. So if you haven't already, check out the Roto Experts Daily Fantasy Rundown that Mike and Drew do. Also, want to mention the fine folks over there at Lou Dogs. Adam has done a great job with the forums over there. They have pretty in-depth discussions every day on their forums, and so they're someone who we want to push people towards that site. And then, of course, DraftDay. If you haven't checked out DraftDay, you need to. It's fun. They've got target games. They've got bracket games. We'll have another bracket game next week, and they've got the Rapid Fire Max. It's the best site as far as just having a good old time, and I've really enjoyed playing back, getting back there, and we'll again be getting back there tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to fire away on Twitter at us at InsidersDFS at Laufey_D, and we'll try to get back to you. Mike, are you going to take down another qualifier tonight, or are you going to let one of us take it?
I'm taking it down. I'm going to get my 2 entries out of the way.
Dave, are you going to take something down tonight? Just go ahead and call your shot.
I just entered that DraftDay qualifier, so we'll have to see. But I don't know. DraftKings has a lot of good combinations tonight, and I think I'm going to put most of my play on there. But we'll have to see. I'll surely let you know if I do. And if I don't, you won't hear anything. I promise you that much. That's how everyone does it.
Yeah, that is the way of the experts. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Mike, did you have anything to say?
I was going to say you need to talk to Adam at Lou Dogs. There's an interesting photo from the night before the PFBC floating around.
I've seen that before, so yeah, we'll see. We'll see if we can track that down. I'll be tonight with Ben talking college football. Tomorrow, championship week, so it should be fun. Would be good. It would be nice to have some action down on there, and hopefully by that time we'll know who has taken down what, and there might be some good sweats going on there. And then also want to give a shout out to Mr. Tuttle, one of the co-founders of Fantasy Insiders. And this one's for you. See if it will play.
It's a good one.
Mr. Tuttle, can I try now?
Pushy. Move your tushy.
There you go. That's for Mr. Tuttle. He's taken down that $1 million at FanDuel this weekend for the FFFC. So we're cheering him on. Thanks, guys, and we'll talk to you later. Hopefully no fires tonight.